Tom, I know you've been listening to some of those highlights this morning. There's a lot of history with Arkansas and LSU, even though this series is not that old compared to some other ones. When you think about the Hogs and the Tigers, what comes to your mind?
Oh, good morning, guys. Always a pleasure. A lot of great games. I mean, it was my first year on this beat in 2007 when Arkansas had already lost, I think, 3 games and went down and beat number 1 LSU. And that was one of the craziest years ever because LSU had already lost in triple overtime to Kentucky, and they lost to Arkansas, and yet they win the SEC championship game, and they're back in the BCS title game and won it. So that was in Houston, that's last game. What just an incredible game down there that day. A lot of fantastic finishes since I've been on the beat. And, you know, to me, the Arkansas-Texas rivalry, I understand. I know that was the big one, you know, before, like, we all came along. That was big. And then, but I thought that LSU fit for them pretty well with that Thanksgiving thing, border state. David Basil, you know, he lends his expertise and college football knowledge to the deal with the trophy. But LSU, when A&M started, you know, came in, I think they preferred to play late against A&M, and that's what's happened. And you can't change that. But it's still, to me, it's a great rivalry. LSU's got huge rivalries against Bama, Ole Miss, A&M, all their border states. But for Arkansas, I thought LSU was a good natural fit for their early years in the SEC.
Yeah, the battle for the Golden Boot is just so significant for Arkansas fans and players and coaches, and not near as significant to the LSU fan base, players and coaches. I know what coaches will say in Baton Rouge, but we all know it's not the same thing. I'm still waiting on Tiger Bait to call, Tom. He has not called any of our radio shows yet just this week. So you've got, in terms of matchups on Saturday night, Nussmeier didn't have this like all-world game against Ole Miss. Right around 50% completion, had 3 touchdowns, but I think 2 picks, if I remember that right. Coach Pittman touched on him a little bit. This is the kid you beat back in 2021 in Baton Rouge who replaced Max Johnson. What's your takeaway from LSU's quarterback heading into this game Saturday night?
Well, he's come a long way since that first start when we felt like if they might have rolled with Max Johnson, I guess, at the time, they might have had a better chance to win that game. And it felt like Ed Orgeron had been kind of pressured to start Nussmeier, but it's many years since then. He's a veteran kid, and so Arkansas faced 3 redshirt freshman starters in a row between Auburn, A&M, and Tennessee games. And there's certain things you could do. I mean, they did some things that messed up Nico last game. Marcel Reed played very composed, but, you know, a limited type game plan. And when Wegman came back and they opened things up against Missouri, you saw what happened. So Nussmeier is going to present a bigger challenge in that I don't think he'll be as confused as easily. And he's got sneaky good escapability. He's only been sacked twice, and he trusts his receivers. I mean, even if a guy's right with Kyron Lacey and maybe some of these others, many of whom might be coming back this week, he'll throw it up there. And the only game that Arkansas has kind of struggled a little bit in pass defense, Oklahoma State, it was tall receivers. It was a speedy slot guy in Brendan Presley that they struggled to contain. And the LSU can do each of those things. And they have dangerous tight ends. So this is going to be the biggest, I think, defensive challenge they face yet.
Tom Murphy's with us. His conversation is courtesy of our friends at the Arkansas Beef Council. We're going to tell you about their top 10 finalists coming up. Tom writes for Whole Hog Sports and the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Tom, it's kind of funny. Someone mentioned that, he's only been sacked twice, and Pittman looked at the guy yesterday and was like, oh, didn't know that. So hopefully that Travis Williams and their defense can get to him a little bit. One of the things Pittman said yesterday about T-Will is like, this guy's gaining some confidence. He knows his personnel. They're 6 games in. They confused the heck out of Nico last week. What do you think he has in store for, and I'm talking about Travis Williams now, what do you think he has in store for Nussmeier on Saturday night?
Well, I mean, it could be more DBs. I mean, to me, LSU...
You get Mitchell back, by the way.
Yeah, get Miguel Mitchell back, and we don't know how he'll fit in, and Hudson Clark should be better. He played a few snaps last game. But to me, it's first of all, make sure LSU can't be relying on its run game, and they have not really, established that much this season. So if they can get them in the air, it's maybe just trying to confuse cover or mix coverages a lot, and this is a tough challenge for them. I mean, Travis Williams has had a phenomenal year. I think their game plans have been close to spot on each week, and kind of blueprint plans. Now, Oklahoma helped them with a plan for Tennessee, but I think Arkansas put the plan out for Oklahoma State that's been emulated since then, and they've fallen. So I can't tell you exactly what you got to defend Lacey. Kyron Lacey is a great receiver, and so hopefully your cornerbacks are ready to go. They're going to be challenged unlike any other game this week.
Tom Murphy with us again, continuing on our conversation about Arkansas and LSU. Tom, one of the other things that people want to know about is Taylor Green's status. Coach Pittman touched on a little bit yesterday. Sure sounds confident that he's going to play, barring a change. When you get ready for a week like this, and there's a possibility, how do you think they're game planning for Saturday when it comes to Arkansas offensively, when it comes to the status of Taylor, and then also Malachi Singleton maybe having to go in there at some point?
Right. Well, at this stage, Bobby Petrino is already very well aware of what Taylor's strengths are and what Malachi's strengths are, and I don't think it will change what LSU is preparing for. So to me, I think Sam was being, virtually, essentially honest about they feel good, that he worked some last week, including the walkthrough day, which he would have done anyway. So he can get around. It's just a matter of when you get into game conditions, how that bruise is going to feel. Because, his first play back in the game, he looked, very limited. So I think I gathered that they're pretty confident he'll be able to go, but they're not going to be definitive about it because, the longer you wait to be definitive, maybe the more uncertainty or what have you. But LSU is going to be ready for Taylor Green. There's no doubt about that.
Tom, I don't know if you've seen the recent report from Dennis Dodd and Matt Hayes, but it sounds like we could be heading towards a non-conference matchups of sorts, like in basketball with the ACC-SEC Challenge with the Big Ten and the SEC. Just on the surface, I don't know if you're hearing this real time or if you've seen this, but do you like the possibility of the SEC and Big Ten doing non-conference matchups and kind of pairing teams up before their conference season begins?
I have seen it, and I love the idea because of all the conferences. I mean, Arkansas has had a long history of playing the Big 12 teams, and they've played some ACC teams.
Yeah.
Not as much, but they've played them. But to me, the Big 10, you get them in bowl games. They played Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin in bowl games. And I wouldn't mind seeing yearly pairings, face Iowa home and away, face Purdue home and away, and on down the list. Illinois, which would be great if Brett was still coaching there to have a home and away with Illinois one year. And if they do it like basketball, it seems to me they try to match them up in terms of relative strength. That's why Kentucky is always playing Kansas in the Big 12 SEC matchup and so on and so forth. So I think an Arkansas-Illinois pairing, if they want to get this thing going pretty quick, would be fun. I'll tell you.
Go ahead. No, you finish your thought. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Well, I was going on one last different tangent I wanted to mention today, and it's this. The longer I've covered the game, the more I get into the psychology, how teams, the ups and downs of teams. And I think in Arkansas's regard, a couple of big things are in their favor. The fact they had an open week after a huge win, I think, is really big, that you don't have to turn right around and get up the next week. Mm-hmm. That's big. And I think LSU coming off a dramatic home win is also good for Arkansas. But to me, the X factor is Nussmeier and his ability to escape pressure and just throw the ball up. They converted 2 fourth downs in that last drive, which was huge. And I just think I heard you predict Arkansas will win if Taylor Green's healthy, and I think fans are just happy that they have a team that they feel like a game plan and an effort is going to be made and put forth that they could be basically proud of. And to me, that was Sam Pittman's biggest thing going into this season, was to put forth a team that the fans could be proud of, and we have one field storming to prove that.
And hopefully not another one as of Saturday night. We'll see what happens in that game. Tom, you brought up basketball. I want to touch on a positive and then, unfortunately, negative. Kansas, number 1, and they're coming into your house, your building, Bud Walton Arena, next Friday. I know people are excited about that. Arkansas checks in at 16. You got 2 all-SEC guys, and Jonas Adu and John L. Davis. Maybe just some quick thoughts on some of the all-SEC teams in predicted order of finish yesterday. Or today,
isn't that really cool? Yeah, isn't that really coll that Kansas is coming here? It's like Purdue coming last year. I mean, this is – and the fans, like, they respond to that. And – I've been the football guy since I've been here, and I cover basketball as well. But I think it's dawning on me the last 3 years how much Arkansas fans love their basketball. Mm-hmm. And if you're good, they're going to show out. And we saw that. So I think it's wonderful. Alabama makes sense to me, picking them coming off a Final Four year to win it. And then, Arkansas, John Calipari has been very sure to mention, look, this is going to be, there's going to be some building process going on here. When you have an entirely new roster, that is true. But I do think pieces are in place. I've told y'all several times how much I like Adu's game. And so I think if they are able to lock down, be a good defensive team, that's going to give them a shot in all these.
Tom, last thing I mentioned, unfortunately negative, Rose Richardson passed away Sunday, Nolan Richardson's wife, 84 years old. You mentioned not the lead beat guy when it comes to basketball, but you have covered basketball. Have you ever gotten a chance to interact with her in any way or heard stories from former players and coaches on Coach Richardson's wife?
Yeah, just heard the stories. And I obviously read a lot of social media yesterday and last night about how meaningful she was to the team and Coach Richardson's statement. So it's a huge loss, and I think a lot of players, they're in their teens when they get here. And when the coach's wife is as inviting and helpful as Rose was, it's impactful to them. And so you saw a lot of testaments to how these folks feel about her, and obviously meant a ton to Coach Richardson and the state. And he called her, I think, the perfect basketball wife, and so a lot of folks are going to miss her.
Tom, we'll leave it there. Appreciate you joining us as always, and we'll catch up a little more on Thursday, talk more Arkansas and LSU.
All right, thanks.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.